Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday, December 17th. We had a down day today in the market, and supposedly this was the longest losing streak for the Dow Jones since 1978. That's kind of the headlines that I've been seeing. I wasn't aware of that, and so take that for what it's worth. We had a tax strain on Friday and yesterday. Actually, yesterday's tax strain, the mid-December tax strain, that kind of slipped my mind. I mean, we really didn't have much of it last year. So I think it was kind of like not something I was focused on. But we had a pretty big drain from last Friday to Monday. It was about 101 billion. Net transfers for December were 98 billion. Now net transfers are negative 3 billion. What does that mean? It means that 98 billion plus another 3 was sucked right back to the government into the Treasury's account as a result of the tax strain. So it's very common or not unusual to see the market go down because bank accounts are drained, okay? But we are coming to, tomorrow's going to be a Social Security payment. Next week, you got another Social Security payment on Tuesday. You got the first of the month payments coming on December 31st. That would be the following Tuesday. So from here through the end of the month, we should see the market recover, okay? The monetary condition will be very positive. We're still, we still have a very strong leading flow. Still very strong leading flow. So that's, that's a very, very important factor. These drains, they happen every cycle. We have tax drains. This one slipped my mind. And last year it wasn't very big at all. I mean, we really didn't have much. We had a very minor one. But so that explains it. I don't think this is, even though they're saying it hasn't happened since 1978. It's not 1978, okay? In 1978, the government wasn't spending top line 7+ trillion annually. All right? I mean, don't fall into the trap. I know a lot of people like to, history repeats itself, blah, blah, blah. It might repeat itself, in a way that looks kind of similar, but, don't fall into the trap that just because something happened, whatever, 40 years ago, 46 years ago, the same thing is going to happen right now. I mean, the stock market is a dynamical system. Dynamical systems have millions and countless inputs that go in. So, they could look the same, like they repeat, but there's subtle differences. Any subtle difference, any kind of change in one of those millions of inputs could make a big difference in the outcome. It's the old saying, a butterfly flaps its wings and, something happens on the other side of the world. Don't fall into this trap that just because something happened in the past and it kind of looks the same now. I mean, looks can be deceiving. All right, so it's not 1978. 1978 had different factors. Certainly they weren't spending 7 trillion plus annually. I said, and don't forget, like a couple of weeks ago, I said that, actually at the end of November, I said that was it for actually at the time, it was an unprecedented fiscal spike. I mean, we had the quarterly interest payment. We had the first of the month payments coming in November instead of December 1st because December 1st fell, I think it was on a Saturday or a Sunday. So you had this concentration, this huge concentration of, money transfers into the economy from the Treasury, and it peaked went like sky high. And I said this is going to kind of be like reversion to the mean. We're going to come back down again to our usual levels, which I've been telling you guys, the usual levels are still very, very high. We're still running like an average of 700 billion a month. It's crazy, man. So I think this is a buying opportunity. And I keep saying, like, you got to be thinking about next year. Because a whole bunch of new factors are going to be introduced into the picture. You got a new administration. You got a new Congress. You're going to have new policies. You got this Doge thing going on with Elon and Ramaswamy. All right. What else? You got Fed rate cuts. By the way, tomorrow is going to be the Fed's going to cut 25 basis points. And then, like I've been saying, they're probably going to say, that's it for now. We're going to sit back and take a look at what develops in the economy. And of course, the monetarists are going to freak out. They'll probably sell bonds. For what it's worth, I'm long the Treasury market. I think that's a longer term play that, to me, it makes sense. We'll see what happens next year with policy. The other thing you got is this crazy national Bitcoin reserve that Trump wants to do. I think that's like the wild card of wild cards. I mean, if he goes ahead with that, and depending on what they decide to do in terms of what are they going to allow, what are they going to let Bitcoin do? In other words, what properties will they grant to Bitcoin? If Bitcoin is simply another reserve asset like gold or something like that, maybe it's not going to be a big deal. I mean, it'll be a big deal in the sense of the Bitcoin price. It's going to go up if the U.S. government is going to, over time, accumulate Bitcoin. But if they make Bitcoin so you can use it to pay federal taxes, if they give it that property, then I'll be on record right now. The U.S. dollar is finished, okay? Not overnight, but if they give Bitcoin that property that you can use it to pay federal taxes, I'm short the dollar until I die. And I'll die a rich man, okay? So we got to see, like I said, there's a lot of stuff coming up in next year, starting from January 20th. And I wouldn't make any big plays right now. I mean, I would stay long stocks. I would buy this dip. Flows are still strong. I suspect that flows are going to stay strong next year. But it just depends on what this Doge ends up doing in terms of cutting. I've been pointing out that I think all this deficit mania and the deficit doomsday and the debt doomsday, it's been hitting kind of a crescendo. I mean, it's coming from every direction. And it's always kind of been that way, but I just feel like the volume is very, very high on this right now. And you got a guy like Elon Musk, who has become sort of the right-hand man to Trump, saying things like the United States is going to go bankrupt and we got to do something about it. So everything's on the table, man. And like I've been saying in these videos, I don't care. And it's not like, I'll be affected. Everyone's going to be affected if they start doing things. Like if they start messing around with Social Security. By the way, I hate the word entitlements. That's bullshit. It's not an entitlement. Like entitlement, it conjures up this idea that they're giving it to us. I mean, we pay, taxes are taken from us for this stupid thing. It's not stupid. I mean, Social Security is great and it's kept millions and millions of seniors out of poverty. But I mean, stop calling it an entitlement. It's like an annuity. It comes out of people's paychecks. If they start messing around with that, if they start messing around with Medicare, these are the big items that are really the foundation of high levels of flows, high levels of transfers. If they start playing around with those things, which I don't think they will because Congress would have to go along with that. But again, like I said, the volume of angst and outcry about the debt and this, insane debt doomsday phobia and fear by people who are otherwise very educated, but they're so dumb when it comes to this stuff. And it's really, the other thing, just getting back to what I said about if they give Bitcoin the property of allowing people to use it to pay federal taxes, some states now are actually doing that. And also we see countries like El Salvador, right? It's been all over the news. And Trump's a money guy, man. Like, this is a problem. I mean, if you think of the United States government, the federal government, as having to be run like a business, a monopolistic power like a government, like the federal government, if you say it has to be run by like a business, which means it has to in some way profit, it will absorb all the profits of the economy very easily. I mean, it could do that simply by reducing quote unquote costs. The costs of the government, that's essentially its currency creating capacity. If you say we got to reduce that, everything gets sucked away, just like what we just saw over the past 2 days with this tax drain. Government is not a profit-seeking enterprise. The private sector is a profit-seeking enterprise. Government has to supply the accounting unit, the means of transaction, because if it is going to impose taxes that are only payable in its own money, it has to supply that money for us to be able to pay taxes. In other words, again, the monopoly game. You can't play the game. You could take out the instructions. The instructions said, step number 1, distribute the money. And it tells you in what denominations. So, I mean, like, if all you're thinking about is money, then the government's going to have it all and the economy will have none. This is the problem. I like Trump. I voted for him. I like, other things he stands for. But I mean, when you get a guy who's a businessman and that's all he understands, which I'm not blaming him for that. As a businessman, that's what you have to understand if you're going to be successful, is profitability. But like, it doesn't apply to the government. It just doesn't. And if you force it, then the government has all the money and we have nothing. I guess we have Bitcoin in the air. I don't know. It will, the economy, the private sector will ultimately find a replacement. But that'll change completely the look of the U.S. economy. So you got to be prepared for that. That might happen. Okay, what are you going to do? You don't know. I know if that happens, what I'm going to do. You don't know. I know. Because again, that's like an MMT understanding. And I went through this whole thing yesterday. MMT is not a policy. MMT would explain exactly what would happen if it comes to that. So again, I have the knowledge. Maybe you don't. I have it. Anyway, that's it for tonight. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. See you tomorrow. Bye. Tomorrow's Fed Day. 25 basis points. Freak out time for the monetarist zombies. Let's watch it.